Hello, everyone. Good evening and a warm welcome to this virtual gathering to receive insights and takeaways from industry leaders on elegant solutions for the future of talent acquisition. I'm Pooja Bothra, Senior Content Lead, ETHR World, and your host for this session. This is a debut session of a knowledge series called Road to Hire, to bring forth actual, authentic, and attractive trends augmenting hiring in 2022, co-created by ETHR World and Indeed. Road to Hire celebrates new formats of recruitment, including flexi, freelance, and project workers. It highlights the new talent philosophy of tapping and not trapping talent to drive business outcome. In the first episode, the experts will share their insights on a discerning recruitment strategy encompassing inclusive technologies to root out bias and create equitable recruitment practices. Please join me in welcoming eminent leaders on this panel. We have with us Dr. C. Jayakumar, CHRO L&T, Praveen Chanda, Head HR Global Data, Varadaraj Venkataraman, VP and Head India Recruiting Global Contingent Staffing Infosys, and Rohan Sylvester, Recruitment Evangelist at Indeed. Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to all of you. I'd also like to welcome the viewers. Viewers, please use the Q&A tab on your screen to share questions. We'd like to make this session very engaging for you. We would want to answer all your questions, so keep them flowing. I'll take your questions right from the middle of the session. Do not wait till the end to share your questions. Technology continues to evolve, invoking new business formats, fresh entrants, and radical disruption in the economy. The young new age firms have scaled rapidly and generated an exponential demand for talent. That, along with the changed perspective of professional success, has caused a phenomenal churning of talent in the economy. Today, employers find themselves at crossroads to reinvent their hiring strategy, to tap into universal sources for both temporary and permanent workforce, to alleviate skill shortage, diversify the talent pool, and boost productivity. To that point, I'd like to invite Dr. C. Jayakumar to share a context on the evolving talent landscape in his industry.
Thank you, Pooja. It's always a pleasure to be part of the panel discussions with the ETHR World. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's a very broad area, talent shortage. So let me limit myself to more EPC, manufacturing, etc. And other experts can talk about IT and other areas. It's quite natural that for any developing economy, there's a whole lot of investment happens in infrastructure spending. In the recent budget also, you would have seen significant investment or capital expenditure in infrastructure up to 7.5 lakh crores, which is around 35% more than the previous year. In various things like urban development, renewable energy, drinking water, housing, highways, you name it. And some of the major multi-million-dollar projects awarded are like high-speed rail, you have more than 100 smart cities, Delhi, Mumbai, industrial corridor, Mumbai TransLink. There are a whole lot of projects have been awarded. Same if you look at the manufacturing also, because of the Make in India initiatives, whole lot of facilities being given. And very particularly, 68% of the capital procurement budget of defense is for domestic industry. And they are also providing a lot of production-linked incentives across 14 sectors. So there's a huge amount of demand. This all results in demand for talent. When such a huge investment happens, not only Indian players, global companies like Turner, Bechtel, all these people are also heading towards India for again, they require a whole lot of talent. In the last 1 year, if you see, we got more than, in the one particular IC itself, we got more than 75,000 crores of order. In spite of that, we lost at least 5 to 6 tenders to the local competition. When they lost 25,000 crores, they look for talent. When they look for talent, they look for companies like L&T where to get skilled talent. So there is a war for talent. It was always there. Now it has become more. The second thing is we are moving much towards automation, digitalization, etc. So we are bringing a lot of automation inside. So the skilled talent is also limitedly available. So it takes a lot of effort for training, etc. At a grassroots level, when I come to my industry, like carpenters, bartenders, fitters, now that is also a whole lot of shortage because there are so many other opportunities available, Swiggies and Zomatos and Ubers. So again, getting them, creating a construction skills training institute, etc. That is another big focus area because of skill shortage. More than that, the nature of construction industry itself today, youngsters, when they come out of college, they wanted a ACPC type of environment. We call ACPC means with AC and a PC. A civil engineer at a project site neither has an AC nor a PC. Okay, he has to be in the hot sun and do. So the preferences towards IT and technology. So how do I motivate and get them inside is another. And again, the compensation is also industry benchmark, right? It is based on the industry. IT, technology, analytics, you get highly paid. Whereas when in the construction industry, the average salary rates are also less. So that is because in the productivity of the sector itself, as a global labor productivity, when you say it has increased only 1% annually over the past decade, as compared to 2.8 or 3.6%. So McKinsey has done a research and they say this is because of high amount of regulation. Most of the investment is public sector demand, and then it's a fragmented industry. So with all these things, it's the effort becomes more and the problem becomes compounded. So this is in the EPC and the manufacturing area. Leave it to you, Pooja.
Very interesting points. And, in a nutshell, you've given us the entire talent economies framework. Varadaraj, going to you, I would like to ask you, what are the few factors that are causing skill shortage, talent shortage, and a raging war of talent in your sector? And we all know the IT sector is booming and there is a lot of talent shortage. That's what we understand.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here, Pooja. It's always a pleasure to participate in ETHR conversations. So from an IT perspective, what I can say is that there are several factors which is really leading to a war of talent in the industry today. Right? Accelerated growth is one of those. Several large deal wins that the IT services players in India have had. The number of hirings that each of these companies are doing today itself. I mean, if you look at the Twitch companies, as we call, right, they have had a net addition of over 70,000 employees in the last just 1 quarter, right? And that's a net addition, which also is after discounting for the attrition as well, right? Then there is, of course, this rapid adoption of digital technologies by clients across the globe. And it's not just these IT companies and our primary clients who are adopting digital technologies and hiring people as well. The startups, the startup ecosystem in India and the kind of people they're hiring and the volumes they're looking at. You look at the global companies who have set up their captives in India, the volumes that they are hiring and trying to do transformational work in the technology area. And as well as the fact that almost every industry is also hiring technologies, like what Dr. Jayakumar also mentioned, right? So for example, I mean, auto manufacturers who used to primarily produce fuel-efficient cars, that was a primary motive. But they are today really trying to provide functionalities that enhance the overall experience of driving or traveling in a car. Right? And there is an average, when I was reading up a few things, I think there's an average of anywhere between 1,000 to 1,400 chips embedded in a car today, right? And with even autonomous vehicles, drive-by-wire, etc., I think the need for tech professionals is only increasing. And I believe this is going to continue with more and more people openly embracing technology in their life. So my sense is I think all these factors compounded together is really leading to the talent shortage in the industry. But I have no doubts that the companies are trying to do multiple interventions to try and overcome many of these talent shortages and stuff. And it's just a matter of time before we win over this particular talent war itself. Back to you, Pooja. Thank you.
Thank you, Varadaraj. And both Dr. C. Jayakumar and Varadaraj have kind of established the fact that talent war is for real in both their industries, and they form the chunk of the total GDP in India, both these industries. So they kind of represent what's happening in the talent economy. My question is that what is the unique or what is innovative employee value proposition are you all designing in order to win that talent war? So let's start with you, Praveen, and I would like inputs from all you leaders on this particular question.
Right. Thank you, Pooja, for hosting us this evening on such a credible context. And also it's an honor and privilege to share the space with my fellow panelists and participants who joined the session today. On coming back to the question, I would like to take a step back just to understand the origin of why this discussion is coming today, right? Now, the pandemic, as we all know, has accelerated and observed exponential growth in the digital and e-commerce space. Other than what Jayakumar has said, in the tech industry too, I mean, there is exponential growth, and led to creation of several tech startups, unicorns, potential unicorns, and they've proportionally created many jobs. Now, it's reported that nearly 65,000 jobs have been offered over the last 1 year. I mean, I was reading somewhere in the Times Journal, right? And the depth and now imagine 65,000 jobs in 1 year, which is a new stream of companies that have come and picked up the talent, and the power of choice it has created for the talent. Now, in a situation or an era like this, understanding the candidate's mindset, their needs, and how we position our EVP during talent hunt or attraction becomes extremely critical. Now, no longer individuals are looking just to simply collect a paycheck and work under a mandatory environment with a manager giving constant direction under the obligations of life commitments, you're working. Paycheck is definitely important, but people are looking beyond the paycheck. How is that, I'm bringing value to the overall organization. Now, purpose alignment with personal values and the need to see how individual effort contributes to the overall corporate and social goals are driving job seekers' attention. Instead of accepting that their work-life activities are separate from their personal identity, people are looking for opportunities to make their work a reflection of themselves and their values. So, they enjoy what they are doing. So, I would take these three things as baseline to create an effective EVP. Now, understanding the mindset and needs of this Z generation or millennial employees, that's where the tech industry is penetrating at, is the key to creation of a successful EVP. Now, EVP is a deep promise that we are committing to our potential candidates and as well as our existing employees. So it has to be in turn well calibrated with your real-time employee experience that you offer as part of your overall organization's employee life cycle. Now, from TA per se, since we're talking about the talent acquisition strategies, now from TA per se, this should start from your home. That is, your TA specialists should be the first customers to experience your organization's EVP. As they are the brand ambassadors who are going to talk about it, sell about it, and carry the entire EVP proposition into the market. Now, the core of EVP can be segmented into six elements. I mean, EVP is not like one size fits all. It depends upon the industry, target audience, job function, job role. There are various attributes that are required, when you build an EVP. Now, in general, if we talk about, other than paycheck, compensation is the top, EVP proposition that people say. Now, again, like I said, EVP, it's not just about the compensation as an attribute, but beyond paycheck, which is leadership and alignment. Candidates needs to have that confidence that organization is well led and headed in the right direction. Now, learning and development and career wellness. Now, the prospective candidates and the employees today are looking forward to have that learning as an essential part of their job. I don't want to do a mundane job. I want to constantly grow, improvise myself, and keep moving through the career. It can be vertical or it can be horizontal. There were days where we used to look at career growth as only vertical, but this generation is not just looking as a vertical growth, they're also looking at a horizontal way of expanding their wings and supporting and pursuing their interests in whatever way they can. Now, value and rewards for contributions. Candidates would want to know how their work is valued and how it creates an impact to the organization goals and personal goals, and that the employer strikes a balance between rewards and contributions. Now, fourth one is the empowerment. I mean, this is definitely there on the ground, and people are looking forward for that. Whether your potential hires or your employees today are looking forward for autonomy, authority, and meaningful work, and freedom of environment, creative environment. Again, culture and inclusion. Employees want a positive, energizing work environment, transparent people practices, transparency in communications, fair treatment, and overall an inclusive culture. And then the other one is flexibility. It's a top ranked at the moment, though I've put it as a sixth element. Flexibility is the top ranked attribute that people are looking at. I'm sure, a lot of us have already experienced. Some of the leading job boards have already inserted this as a job filter, like flexibility of work hours, whether you work from home or it's a hybrid working or it's a flexible workers or work from anywhere. These are the various attributes. Apparently, it is also reported this was a hit filter in the job search criteria. So that shows, people are, more paying attention towards, the flexibility. Now, some other elements, which are equally important to create this overall EVP package as an effective EVP package, or, various things that are coming, as things are evolving. Sign-on bonus has become the given thing these days. Now, medical and insurance coverage, and any other attractive benefits that an organization have in store are going to, overall, do a very good EVP package for your organization. In all, I would say it's time to re-examine the employee value proposition with the evolving needs of your industry or target audience or job function, and make sure it is as compelling and as differentiating as possible. We need to have a powerful EVP that attracts, nourishes, and retains talents. If you have to win this race in the war of talent, you need to have those differentiators among the crowd.
I agree with you, Praveen, and I have really no doubt that all the speakers on this panel would have an equal and powerful EVPs with them, coming from the organizations that they come from. I just want to slightly twist the question and ask Jayakumar and Varadaraj that with a very, very solid EVP that you are sitting with, which has a multi-pronged approach to, live up to multi-generational and all kind of employees. But the question is that how do hiring managers help you to kind of communicate that EVP? What medium are you using to kind of communicate to the candidates in the market and make them, understand and make them visualize what is waiting for them? Jayakumar, you, and then Varadaraj.
Yeah, Pooja. When Praveen was talking, he added one more thing regarding flexibility. In fact, I missed out to tell when I talked about the challenges. Working from home or remote for an EPC industry, how can I do that? No way I can construct a bridge sitting at home. So that's another biggest challenge. But still, how do we attract people? Attract as well as retain people. Okay, and retention is not my attrition rates are much low as compared to the other peers in the industry. But still, we are not complacent about it. But of late, we are also finding a couple of not the little mid-level people also looking slight increase in their attrition. As we come to the EVP part of it, the first and foremost is the pride. We call ourselves as the builders to the nation, and then we call builders to the nations. So it's a national cause. So today millennials look for a purpose. We do the tallest, longest, the smartest projects, the biggest, from submarines to space rockets, airports to highways, metros to freight corridors. So we used to say, if you are part of constructing this high-speed rail, not only you, your son, your daughter, your grandchildren also will say, this has been constructed by my grandfather, right? It lives for years together. And when I was young, my father used to say this Egmore station was constructed by his friend's father. So that is the pride associated with building a landmark project. So that is one particular aspect of the involved in the EPC and other areas. Next is there's a feeling that everybody wants to go to a technology-based company. So we consciously moved towards technology, digitalization, digital transformation. One is for enhanced business results, because to improve productivity using technology. So we have brought in different things like IoT, cloud, mobility, AI, ML, etc. into the infrastructure industry. In fact, we are disrupting the infrastructure industry by digitalization, automation, and bringing in technology. We use, for example, in a construction industry, if you look at, there are a whole lot of machinery spread across the entire country in the projects. So entire machinery is tagged with RFIDs and sensors. And we are sitting at an headquarters, we get the data every moment of time regarding the utilization of machine, fuel efficiency, preventive maintenance, idle time, productivity, entire data comes with. So it gives a feeling in the engineering colleges and for the millennials that, yes, I am not going to a brick and mortar company. I am also a part of a technology company. We keep talking, and even this is a part of the brand building to attract talent, right? When I spend time to discuss this, many people will be seeing, so that it is not a brick and mortar construction, we are into technology part of it. Next thing is, we are also moving into new age industries. Like we know that, okay, we are into EPC and manufacturing. Today, we have started many platform type of service type of business like EduTech. We are into Sufin, which is Amazon for engineering goods. We have gone into data centers. So like that, this also there, so that internal talent also gets a mobility to move around to the different functions of thing. Another major EVP which we emphasize always at colleges or at this, it is L&T, also stands for learning and training. It is called as a learning and training organization. Whole lot of input is given on learning and training. If you look at, we have a whole lot of 18 dedicated training centers, right from our LDA Lonavala. We have technical training centers in Mysore. We have our own Institute of Project Management at Vadodara. And if you look at the digital learning, you name anything, whether it is Coursera, Skillsoft, Red Vector, entire packages are available for the employees to learn. So another EVP we say is the learning and development of individual people. Then we also look at the enhancing the employee experience with the digitalization, right from talent acquisition till the entire life cycle. Every touch point, we have seen that how the employee experience can be improved. That is another focused area which we are working upon to attract and retain talent. Many schemes we have introduced. We have also got something called GRACE, which is get ready for an awesome career in engineering, which we branded in the colleges. So we take different initiatives, attract to the people, and then try to brand it. So various ways are being done to attract talent and brand and try to retain the talent also. If any specific thing is there, you can ask. I would like to respond.
Yes, no, I'm really thinking that this sounds more like enormous value proposition than employee value proposition. Varadaraj, your insights on this?
Yeah. So a few years ago, right, as we've been constantly tracking the average age of people in Infosys. I mean, the average age that we really try to track. Over the years, what's also happened is that we've also been hiring a lot of people who form part of the younger generation, right? And so therefore, naturally, there is a lowering of the average age in the organization. And consequent to that, I think what we also try to do was, in order to make sure that as a company, we are proactively addressing some of the expectations or key expectations that this generation would have, we had also redone our EVP as well, right? And we drew up our employee value proposition around 3 key dimensions. One is the learning value add, the other one is emotional value add, and the third one is, of course, financial value add. And in my mind, I think these 3 dimensions are critical for any employee, and more so for the younger generation who have a long runway in their careers. They're still, they have age on their sides, right? And as a company, what we did was the learning company has been known for learning and training ever since its inception, right? And I think that has just continued furthermore. And we've set up a very futuristic learning platform and programs, which really satisfies the need for knowledge for many of these younger generation, right? And what we also find is that there is a lot of willingness and initiative from many of these younger generation or people to learn things on their own, not just in a classroom, but with access to information that is there so prevalently available for them. They're trying to learn a lot of things themselves. So I think it was very important for us to propagate that, enable them to learn whatever they want, whenever they want, and however they want, right? So I think that entire piece around the learning platform and programs have been customized and created, keeping in mind the needs of this generation as well. And I think what we also do is, apart from the learning platforms and programs that we also have a tremendous amount of certification programs, skill tags, bridge programs, university collaborations, etc., which helps these people to gain additional knowledge. But not just that, it's not just to enhance their own career paths within the same stream that they are in, but to also explore other career paths and career trajectories within the organization as well through some of those bridge programs, right? And when it comes to the financial value add, of course, I think in addition to the compensation itself, I think what we've also been conscious about is to make sure that we are incentivizing these people as and when they gain additional certifications or skill tags, put them into more complex projects, give them that additional exposure, and obviously, brand them around within the organization, saying that these are people who have done very well. These are a number of people who have digital tags and so on and so forth. They go on to become advocates of many of these programs in Infosys to their colleagues and even outside as well, right? I think the point around these 2 aspects that I mentioned was it's very important for us to not just put an EVP out there for the sake of putting one, but to actually demonstrate that in practice, because these people who experience this, then employees then become core advocates for Infosys in the talent market space. And so therefore, they also drive more employee referral profiles coming into the entire funnel, supply funnel for us. And that really helps us in being able to hire a lot of people. And of course, the last one is the emotional value add, which really is all about the core of HR, right? The employee care, employee value, the employee engagement, and making sure that there is holistic well-being of employees, not just on the work front, but also on the personal front as well. So we have several programs that our HR teams run very successfully for several years, which kind of caters to various facets of their life itself, right? And I think collectively, we believe that these are things that have worked out well for the organization. And this also seems to strike a chord with the generation of people that we are really dealing with today. Back to you, Pooja. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the right strategy, to strike a chord with the current generation. And I totally agree, Varadaraj, when you say that having EVP in place is one thing, but also demonstrating the practice is also equally important. And to that, I'd like to invite Rohan, the recruitment evangelist, who is in touch with, some of the biggest TA policymakers and who's got brilliant insights on this subject. So Rohan, based on your research, what are the latest trends in TA strategy that comprises of employer branding, candidate experience, onboarding, that enable organizations to attract and acquire talent.
Thanks, Pooja. Really happy and really excited to be here with this panel. To answer your question, usually trends are driven by a multitude of factors. It's technology, it's business and things. I think for the first time in a long time, almost all the trends that we're seeing now can kind of be tracked back to essentially one thing, which was the pandemic. I don't think we've ever seen a situation where work has changed as drastically as it has. And the interesting thing was, it's not that the change couldn't have happened before. All the technologies that organizations are using now existed before. There was no impetus to make the change now, and so we are seeing this, right? And we saw as a consequence a lot of innovation, a lot of new solutions, not just in HR and talent solutions, but across verticals. And a lot of these solutions help these businesses run smoothly. Almost everyone pivoted from the smallest businesses to the largest organizations and corporates out there. Everyone had to pivot, and you see there was a lot of change as a consequence of that. Now, from a trend perspective, the one couple of big things I want to call out is how we have to modify our employer branding and our conversations around culture to take into consideration something that Mr. Praveen was saying earlier, how job seekers have changed what has become important to them, right? In many ways. Firstly, for example, we do a lot of research, as you mentioned. In a recent study that we did, 54% of employers we surveyed said things are going to change. The way we work has changed forever. And in a recent, like I'm talking Jan 2022, when we spoke to employees in an Indeed hiring tracker, 71% of Indian employees surveyed are rethinking their careers, while half are deliberating the purpose of their job, which goes directly to what Mr. Praveen was saying. Suddenly, everyone is having this moment, right, to see, does anything I do make sense? And globally, we are calling it the Great Resignation. In Indeed, we are personally actually calling it the Great Realization. Because essentially what's happening is people are just looking around, they're working from home, the line started blurring, and they were trying to figure out, does this make sense to me? And that is a huge trend. People literally looking around to see for jobs that align with their values, align with what they think is how they want to contribute to society. And suddenly job satisfaction shot up to the top. 68% of employees said this was very important or one of the most important. So as a consequence, there are these massive shifts that are happening in EVP and employer branding and culture, where what we used to do 3 years back just isn't going to work. And from a candidate experience perspective, a very interesting outcome of the pandemic was a lot of TA folks shifted, and TA recruitment processes shifted entirely to virtual. And what was interesting was, because it was virtual, people were getting better at being on time and small things like this, which essentially led to a much better candidate experience. And I've heard from a lot of TA leaders who are saying, even though we are probably going to go back to in-person, even though we are going to go back to office at some point, some of these changes that we instituted during the pandemic, we have learned has made things better for the experience. We will definitely be keeping them and taking them forward, right? Make it easier for job seekers to interview. I live in Bangalore. So for me, getting out of my house and going somewhere is a big deal. It depends on where your office is and where I'm located. So if you tell me I can do everything virtually, I will be the first one to say yes. And a lot of candidates are saying that. So the latest trends are essentially what has happened, what the things that we've learned from the pandemic, what the pandemic has forced us to do. We are now going to start cherry picking the good things that have come out of it, and hopefully apply them going forward, whether we are in office, whether we are fully virtual, whether we are hybrid. There was some good that came out of it, and hopefully we will see more of that going forward.
Thanks, Rohan. Very interesting insights as usual. And, building upon a point that Rohan said that, virtual is here to stay, and virtual interviewing and virtual talent acquisition processes has made it convenient for candidates. To that, Varadaraj, my question, and Praveen, my question to you is that how do you train your hiring managers to be able to kind of relate the organizational or workplace culture virtually, is one thing. And second also is that what steps should you take during talent acquisition that helps in talent retention, in the sense to be able to share the job profile, the vision of the job's growth to candidates as accurately as possible, that would help in talent retention. So how do you kind of connect these dots? Praveen, we'll start with you and then go to Varadaraj.
All right. So, I mean, just taking the cue from what, Rohan mentioned, I think, pandemic has done a lot of good stuff for us. I mean, in terms of bringing the convenience and, improving the experience. There were days where we used to open up a job vacancy and people used to wait outside, travel all the way from different locations, come and sit and one place and, wait for a day long. There used to be this prolonged 8 interviews, 10 interviews and all. Now, right, it's all trimmed down and it has become fast paced. And the kind of experience, the candidates are getting through this, new technology mediums is commendable. And they're all appreciating this for a fact. And that's one of the reasons why, whatever we are doing today has become a hit and, doing well. Now, in terms of recruiters and, training our hiring managers about how we adopt these new practices, right? Recruiters' role has also evolved, right? From not just exhibiting expertise in just sourcing and administrating the interview process, but also, like I mentioned in my earlier comment, they are the brand ambassadors of carrying your EVP of your organization and, getting them to sell it to the, to the candidates. Now, we have learned it hard way through, with high competition and high percentage of dropouts, with no clear visibility around the drivers. It created the necessity of how differently we act and do our hiring today. Now, understanding the candidate's mindset and positioning our EVP effectively again, and ensuring our hiring managers are well equipped in order to use these latest tools and, move on. And I think, both the parties are extremely happy with the way things are happening, both from the hiring managers, the overall talent acquisition team, including hiring managers, and as well as the candidates. And, everything happens, by sitting at one corner of your house, and, it's creating such a great experience. For the matter of fact, any city, traveling and having that physical interaction is definitely a difficult aspect in these days. And, all these technology interventions have definitely made those things very easy. But I personally believe that human intervention or human touch, whether it's talent acquisition space or talent management space, should definitely be there to create that emotional connect, with your talent, whether you're acquiring them or whether you're existing talent. That there is no replacement to that human touch, which should continue to exist, but in conjunction with the technology, intervention.
Varadaraj.
So, see, in my view, retention of employees in a company it actually hinges around multiple dimensions, right? The recruiting process, what we communicate, what we articulate, what is the value accretion to the employee during the course of his or her tenure with Infosys, and the way we engage with all of these employees, right? And so therefore, while we undertake multiple interventions for the second and the third aspects, I'll speak about the first dimension, which is from a TA perspective. How are we ensuring that the right value is being articulated, right path and growth and career path and trajectory and job descriptions and so on and so forth is being articulated as well. So what we did was, in the last 1 year, and we are a company that hires a lot of B-schoolers into the recruitment team, right? We take a lot of pride in that because these people want to do some phenomenal stuff in the company. So one thing that we really did was to create a talent acquisition academy internally, right? And what we did was that we brought in some fantastic learning, training, and certification programs and content, which all our recruiters have access to, and which also gives them a view about what the organization is. It's not so much about just the future, it's also about the history, right? How the company has grown over the years, what's been its genesis, what are the challenges we went through, what are we doing today, how is our revenue mix looking like, how much of digital revenues are we doing, and how is each unit performing, and so on and so forth. Other than that, it's also about some of the most critical successful projects that we've delivered, which has seen significant value, which has delivered significant value for the clients. Some things about the units, various units that are there in Infosys, and so on and so forth. So I think, and we've also created, like I said, the certification programs, which enables many of these people to attain those certifications after going through a coursework and then taking up a couple of assignments and a test process and get certified as well, right? It sort of, all of this, the TA Academy and the certification and the courses, just does not help them only with becoming better recruiters or better sourcers, but also about how can they effectively communicate with the candidates around our EVP, for example, the opportunities with Infosys, the growth opportunities, and the multiple enablers that they can enjoy once they've come into the Infosys as an organization, right? And along the recruiting journey, we also organize multiple red carpet events for future joiners. We have institutionalized a buddy system for the delivery teams with the candidates, so that the mentoring starts even before someone joins us itself. And I think that builds a good connect with the candidate and the hiring managers or the buddies. And many times we've seen that these buddies go on to become good mentors for many of these people who've joined us. And down the line, they still stay connected with many of those people, even if they are in very different business units of Infosys as well. So I think some of these really helps us connect the Infosys ethos and the way we work and the culture from the hiring managers, and translate that to every other person who comes into the organization as well. And of course, in the virtual world, it becomes slightly more difficult, but it has its benefits of being able to access people wherever they are, whenever we are able to, right? And so without the limitation of a physical presence, I think we are able to really do that in a much more quicker manner as well. So I think that's been a big enabler for many of these interventions as well.
Thank you, Varadaraj, for those valuable points. Dr. Jayakumar, I would want you also to share 1 or 2 points on what steps are you taking during hiring to improve retention?
What is the EVPs? Okay, whatever I spoke about. Okay, and earlier it was we moved into a digital platform where the candidate experience is given much of importance. Each of the things gets personalized, right? From his interview call letter till his, even if you regret letter, if you can personalize and send a letter telling that we found this good in you because of this. So one is the candidate experience part of it. Another thing is the recruiter has to be first trained not only in recruitment skills or handling the candidates, but about the business. Okay, what if he is recruiting on a particular area, how much he knows about the career growth, about the avenue, which are the clients he will work with, what are the challenges in that job. So he is able to relate with the candidate better. That we give a lot of importance, not that just like that call a candidate. He knows, understands the thing. Another thing I always emphasize is be very transparent. This is not somehow get a person, get the right person. And I say it is not a sale, right? It is after he comes inside the organization, then only the relationship starts. It is the reverse. So I jokingly, I will tell, if you tell something and get him, till the person is there in the organization, he'll keep pursuing you. So don't do that. So talk about the very facts. What are the challenges in the job? What are the opportunities available? In fact, if the challenges, tell them these will be the challenges which you have to, and how to overcome, what company can do to assist you also. And then second is maintaining an internal parity when you take a person in terms of grade, in terms of CTC, in terms of anything. I may be taking a person from an organization which has fees paid very less, So it's just because he has been getting a lesser salary, I don't try to and get him in at a lesser salary as a lesser grade. Once he enters into the organization, then he feels that he has been let down. So we have standard procedure, process, and very transparent way, put the recruiters and the hiring managers to continuous training process, and we focus very much on the experience part of it. Today we have gone for a single platform where right from, otherwise we were doing multiple times, he was filling the application forms, and every next level of interview starts with tell me about yourself. If it is 3 rounds of interview, you start telling about himself, half the time goes in that. So the what has happened in the earlier interview gets recorded, and the person, the next level of interview when it takes, he starts from there, so that the candidate feels that, oh, the interviewer knows about me. He starts from what he spoke, what is his experience from there. So there is a lot of effort put in bringing in the candidate experience.
I'll just take our audience question here. There's an audience question for Praveen. And this person is asking, what are the tools that are currently being used in your organization to understand a candidate's mindset in order to assess for culture fit?
Right. So what we have done is, we have traditional way of doing a lot of surveys. I mean, we've used a lot of surveys, a lot of tools in order to get the data. But what we have eventually understood is, sit down with that group of people, that focus groups, and understand, what are their needs, what is that they need at the moment. Instead of me driving what they need and, what they have to say and all, we want to sit along with the employees, that focus group that we're talking about, and, understand the needs and, what do they want from us? What is that they expect the company to do at certain stages, and in the entire employee life cycle. That's how we've sat through, and we understood how we need, what are the changes that we need to do in order to ensure that the end employee satisfaction is met. That's how we started doing it, instead of running anonymous surveys at a group level. And at times the data is so skewed. So like I mentioned again, one size doesn't fit all. So we've segmentized our employees with age groups, with functions. Admin guy, a facility logistic guy, needs are different to somebody who's working in the operations. Like somebody at the age group of 40 and above, for him a parental leave is a catch. Is a bonus. While the younger generation is not something, they rather need a vacation, to pursue their courses. So that's how we will have segmentized, and we are taking calls at different levels of an employee life cycle.
Very interesting. Moving forward, research shows that most companies are not using people data to fuel talent strategy. The big challenge is where the data resides, its structure, and how to access it. It'll be great to know how you're using data to enhance the outcome of your recruitment practice. Varadaraj?
Great question. And that's also very close to my heart, because I think there's something that we've been using since many years. I can speak of from both freshers as well as the experienced professional side, but let me give a very general response to this. We've been using talent market analytics since years now, right, to aid several purposes, such as identifying pockets of talent for specific skills, aiding decisions by panelists at the time of hiring, prioritizing joining dates for candidates basis the predicted future outcomes in terms of quality of hiring, longevity and retention, for example, and enhancing the diversity quotient in our hiring mix, etc. We also have tools in place internally to predict attrition, basis which there are triggers that go to the managers, like an early warning system, which the managers are then able to leverage and have more conversations with many of those candidates, just to get a sense of whether there's something that's amiss, there's something that we can do extra over and above what the company's already been doing, or the managers have been already doing as well. Now, there's so much data available internally and also externally, right? I think the companies that leverage analytics in a big way in order to not just use it from a recruitment standpoint, but leverage that to look at people who are long-termers, or who are those rainmakers, and so on and so forth. These companies will stand to, in my view, will stand to win the entire war for talent, right? So therefore, I think with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who are churning out or going through the various organizations, there are behavioral patterns, there are data points that are available, there are performance parameters that are available, and there are also multiple data points about demographics and sociological systems, backgrounds that they come from, socioeconomic backgrounds, and so on and so forth, which all of that can be really pieced together to analyze certain predictable behaviors or even outcomes for many of those candidates. And we've been using a fair amount of that quite extensively in our hiring process. But I think there's still a long way for us to go in this particular space.
Honestly, I mean, just to add what Vardha said, I think, not using data analytics at given stage is not something that, we would agree. Every organization at today's scenario is using data analytics at every part of the job that they're doing, right? From hiring, and then, employee life cycle. How do you drive your benefits? What kind of benefits that you want to draw? Then you go back and, do that analysis. Demographics, recently when there were new labor law codes that were, released, I mean, they were there for the proposal. So we were thinking, every 40 years and above, there should be definitely a free health checkup that should be organized, by the employer. Then again, what we immediately did, we went back to, look at the analytics, look at the age demographics that are there, who are the ones who should be having this, who are the ones who should not be having this. And at every stage, I think, even to build your EVP, you need to have your, data analytics in place. Even for hiring strategies, you need to have your data analytics place, especially when there are emerging technologies. And when you're hiring for your new technologies, for your new line of businesses, you need to understand the talent landscape. I mean, where you're going to get these people from, how you're going to compensate them, what are the perks that are required. So everywhere the data analytics are important. I think all the leading job boards have already started giving these analytics, to their, clients. And it is also available in various forms, from various HR advisory firms, giving them these leading analytics to help them make, informed decisions of how an organization should move. So data analytics is the key for every decision that we make in the organization today.
Pooja, well, I agree, data analytics is the key, because problem is getting the data. If you have to have an integrated system, if you have recruitment system alone, or if you start doing with Excel the recruitment, you'll have only that recruitment data. It has to be integrated with your database so that after it joins, his career progression, his performance, his retention, so that everything is in one place online. The biggest challenge for bigger organizations is having a single integrated system where each data speaks to another, and then we make an analytics. That is where the biggest challenge. We have come a long way, but still lot more to go.
Yes, I agree totally.
Just
Rohan,
to
from
add-
Indeed's perspective,
Yeah. Happy to. So as Praveen was saying, being a job board, we tend to get a lot of information and a lot of data. I mean, globally, about 250 million people use the platform every month. And that's a lot of information. And that's where it starts right now. As a company, we really believe in being data-driven. It's one of our values. In fact, if you come to any of our meetings, one of the things you'll hear very often is, if you can't measure it, we can't improve it. Simple as that. And I think it's a very well-known fact as well. I think the important thing to remember, though, and it's a danger that would potentially exist, is because of the data-driven world that we live in, there is a lot of it. To the point that a lot of organizations and a lot of people can get stuck in the analysis of the whole thing without looking at the solution. I think as organizations, as individuals, as professionals, the key, in my opinion, is also finding that right data, figuring out what are the one or two numbers. It doesn't have to be 100 data points, which honestly is easy to get. It's easy to get at times 100 data points, but then you may not be able to get the answer out of this. I think as organizations are expanding into using data at every stage, we need to remember that the data is vast, it's valuable, but it's also just a means to an end. For example, one of the things we recently, I mean, I'm sure everyone's aware, most recruiters spend a majority of their time doing administrative tasks. tasks that honestly they would rather not be doing because of the things that they are actually good at, which is talking to candidates, talking to hiring managers, figuring out where to find people and get them in there. If we can find data to automate those processes, make those simple make those small changes, that's the kind of moves that as a technology, as data, as automation, we can see some real value, right? And of course, I being a part of the Indeed Glassdoor partnership, we have seen the value that some of this data can be used in employer branding. You can actually go look at some of the information that is coming in and decide exactly what you need to say to succeed in the job seeker market. That's how powerful it can be. Just by seeing how your existing messaging works, you can decide what is happening. And of course, the best part is we've reached a stage where getting data can be done cheap. And this is where, of course, everyone here are from very big organizations, but I wanted to say, this is where even small, medium businesses are getting that leg up, right? What was once not in the realm of possibility for them, they are getting access to a lot of data that can help them compete. So it's data not only helps, it kind of levels the playing field as well, as when it's available in this vast quantity. So I'm really excited about what, changes we are expecting to come. There are a lot that we can predict, but I don't think I would want to be in a position of predicting anything for the next 1 or 2 years. I think everything is up in the air at the moment also.
There is, we are getting a lot of feedback from the audience, and they're saying that it's a very, very insightful session, and they're really liking all the information that's flowing. There's one more question that I'd like to take, and this person is asking any tips for freshers who want to enter into the field of talent acquisition. So anyone who can share some advice for this person who wants to make a career in talent acquisition?
I can probably take a stab at it. Generally, the recruiters of today need to have a couple of traits. Very good communication skills, sales skills, right? Because recruitment is all about selling, right? The closest role that comes to recruitment is sales, and generally it's interchangeable, if you ask me. The other one is a keen interest in people, right? Your ability to strike up conversations, engage people in conversations, spend that time and giving them a patient hearing to the people, to let people speak rather than us trying to be the ones that are doing all the talking. And a good understanding of probably human behavior, which of course it's not something that can come through textbook, but it's something that comes through experience. So that learnability becomes very, very important as well, because when you look at recruiters' lives, rather than using tools when they converse with candidates, they already get early warning signals whether somebody is really serious about looking for a job or will accept a job or anything else, right? Or what could be the other triggers or motivators that could be there for the candidate which can be used by the recruiter in order to convince that person to come and join Infosys, right? Things like, or Infosys or any other organization, sorry. I think so these are some key pieces that I see. A high amount of energy is something that's very, very essential, because recruiting is an extremely tiring job, because you're not just interacting with candidates, you're working on the candidatures, the applications. A lot of attention to detail is something that's also, again, very important, because some of the times, sometimes you also find that candidates fake the information that they provide in the form. So that ability to really track and catch some of those falsified pieces of information becomes very, very, very important. So that attention to detail is very important. And as somebody grows up, as somebody starts off in the recruitment space, I think it's also about how much of openness does a person demonstrate to give and take feedback and inputs, or even look at new ways of doing the same things itself. And every time I speak to our own fresh breed of recruiters that we keep hiring, and I have a conversation with them once every month, and at the end of 6 months, the checkpoint is, what have you changed in the process that we have done till that you've gone through now? How many ideas have you given? How many have been taken up? How many have been implemented? And what's the outcome, right? So I think those are some things that are very, very important from a recruiter's perspective. That innovation, willingness to change, the process that we're running, or adapt oneself to the changing environment itself. A good sense of, like I said, people being able to converse with them very, very effectively. Communication skills, like I mentioned, and learnability is also another part that becomes very, very important for because
we'll just yeah. Thank you, Varadaraj. We'll just take one last question because I think we're running out of time. How can we work on the DE&I agenda during hiring? Jaykumar, just one quick point from you.
Yeah, see, we look at it in two ways. One is at the lateral as well as the trainee hiring. Trainee hiring, it is very quickly, we have to only decide the number, percentage, right? This much percentage of people will go with that. Constantly, we have been increasing, though it is an EPC industry compared to the other EPC players, we are much above the benchmark. Today, last time we have gone to an extent of from last 4 years back, 12 to 13%, we have reached 26% of hiring diversity. Second is in the lateral, we have brought in certain schemes like Renew, where the people who have take a break, who can apply for that, and we look at it. And every place we are very consciously look at getting the diversity. It is right from the top, it is done. Even in the manpower budget, when in any department analysis, we see what is the percentage, how we can improve, and every IC and every ICHR has been given a target to move towards. So conscious effort has been taken to improve the diversity ratios.
Thank you, Dr. Jaykumar. Thank you, Praveen, Varadaraj, and Rohan. We've had wonderful conversations in this session. And, to sum up, I'd like to bring forth a few of the points. One is that L&T stands for Learning and Training, and the GRACE initiative that you talked about. And also what was very interesting is that in spite of being a legacy organizations, you all are so intuitive about giving talent opportunities to work with more technology-based portfolios. So very, very interesting. Praveen, your take on EVP was really enormous value proposition. You kind of really very nicely summarize every component of EVP, very strongly made that point. Varadaraj, your EVP with the 3 pillars of learning value, financial value, and emotional value is also a very, very interesting concept. Plus all your points on every question and how you kind of describe the persona of a great TA leader, a great TA employee is also very, very impeccable. And Rohan, as usual, your perspective on candidate experience onboarding was brilliant. Thank you all for this wonderful conversation. Thank you, viewers. I hope you found this session insightful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pujar. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, audience.
Bye.
We are offline now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.